It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 334. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar.
Hi.
Grace.
Hello.
Kodra.
Hey, Belle.
Tim.
Hello.
And Thalen.
I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
I think you've got your filters stuck on. There was an amazing photo that I saw of somebody teaching like a college class or something, and like every student had the cat filter on.
Yes. Which apparently isn't a default Zoom filter, but I guess someone managed to find it.
Yeah, it's amazing. So last week we started a topic that I totally forgot was a thing, but Ammo remembered was a thing, and apparently we now know where we're going in Final Fantasy XIV, and we're going to the moon.
To the moon!
Maybe via whale? I don't know.
Almost certainly via whale. Are you kidding?
Are there wizards there?
Maybe. Maybe there's wizards on the moon.
There better be a wizard on the moon.
Also, doesn't this mean that this is the last expansion? Because that's how all Final Fantasy games end.
It is the end of
Only
this.
how FF4 ends.
It is the end of this story arc. They have said that. It is not the end of expansions.
Isn't it also how FF9 ends?
I guess that's fair.
Yep.
I never actually finished FF9, but I distinctly remember asking myself as a child, wait, why am I going to the moon now?
Because why
you
not?
can.
But like the story had made sense up until that point.
Well,
And
it's a Final Fantasy
To the
game.
end of a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah.
it's the end of a Final Fantasy game where you fight the person who you've been opposing the entire time, and then you find out that actually they're just a puppet whose strings are being pulled by the person on the moon. So let's go fight the moon.
Yeah, but there is some greater evil, and maybe it lives on the moon.
Ever since
Or
the
in the
first
void.
one.
It's not a Final Fantasy game if things don't go completely off the rails bonkers in the last act.
Yeah,
I guess
no, I mean,
FF2 is not really like that.
They
So
all
FF2,
sort
you're
of-
fighting the Emperor, and then you kill the Emperor, and you fight the Emperor in hell because killing the Emperor once was not sufficient.
Yeah, but like every Final Fantasy game eventually devolves into a creation myth.
Yep.
Like that's just a thing that happens. Like,
Attack and dethrone God.
I mean, at least in 7, the antagonist that you have been dealing with the entire game is the antagonist at the end. It's just he's a weird version of that antagonist now. Same with Final Fantasy V. I actually think Final Fantasy V makes a little bit more sense, and it's incredibly nihilistic. Oh boy.
The bad guy turns out to be an evil tree.
Well, he turns out to be an evil tree who is consumed by the void, and his ultimate goal has stopped being, I'm going to rule everything, and now becomes, I'm going to destroy everything, even myself.
If I can't have it, no one can.
Well, he's been consumed by the void.
I mean, but then you beat him and bring all that stuff back, so whatever.
Yeah, but you die for a little bit.
I don't know. It could be
These things
It
happen.
could be FF8, where you die at the end of Act 1 and the rest of the game is a dream.
Come on, really?
I don't remember enough about... I don't think I actually beat FF8. I think I got to the queen or like the female boss figure, and that was nonsense. That was like... Apparently I
Idea.
was supposed to be... Yeah, I feel like I was supposed to be playing this game differently than I had been playing it, and Idea was them cluing me in that I had been doing it wrong for 80 hours.
That's entirely possible.
all I really remember about the ending of Final Fantasy VIII is the fact that it took me 3.5 hours to get through the final boss because summon animations.
Yeah. Yeah, they really kind of went over the top in that one.
Yes.
I mean, they were cool the first, 10 times.
Was it Eden that had like the insane
Yes, it is.
Okay, yeah, like the I'm nuking the world from outer space animation.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's in Final Fantasy XIV.
Yep.
I mean, doesn't like this is also the attack that you see at the end of Final Fantasy VII, right? Like
Is that
Comet
Supernova?
is
It's similar. I mean,
It's
Final Fantasy
similar,
VII is.
but it's not. The FF8 one is like a solid 4.5 minutes longer.
that's fair. I thought
So it's like total of 2 minutes, but that's enough for a summon. You see it every time.
Uh-huh.
Right, and if you're firing it off every round, that thing takes forever.
isn't Knights of the Round like
Oh, Knights of
Also
the
like
Round
2
is
minutes.
reserved. But it's Knights of the Round is a player summon, and you can just not use that one if you get tired
so
of
is
watching
Eden.
it.
But like Eden
Yeah.
did like stupid amounts of damage, if I remember correctly, and that's the reason why I
Sort of.
kept using it.
so did Knights of
Knights
the
of the
Knights of
Round?
the Round.
I mean, Knights of the Round allowed you to break normal damage caps by letting you do 13 attacks.
Yeah, you could do 13 quad nines. King Arthur and his knights take you on a journey through the tunnel of weird.
FF14 has that attack too in a cutscene.
Yeah, I like the Hildebrand version of that summon.
Oh, jeez.
It's very good.
Anyway, so we're going to the moon.
You know, we've known we're going to the moon since ARR at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like they made it very clear that we would get there eventually.
And by the moon, is this Dalamud?
No.
No,
No,
Alamud's
so-
not the real moon.
Okay.
Oh, it's
that,
this is the real
that was a
moon.
robo moon.
the actual moon.
The actual moon.
Actual
Like-
factual moon.
Yeah, I think Zodiac is inside.
Oh, okay.
Trap things in the moon. That's how
Maybe-
it works.
The moon is haunted. The moon is very, very haunted.
Maybe he'll be super chill about everything.
No, that's not how that works at all.
It was. I want to call that a low likelihood occurrence.
Zodiac be like, "Hey, bros, welcome to the moon," and then attacks us.
I'm sure they'll what they really need to fake us out because they just did a entire thing about how maybe too much light is bad. So maybe actually Zodiac's just really misunderstood, just like they did in Destiny, right?
Totally. Oh man, stasis was a mistake. Stasis effectively broke PvP.
Yeah, I've
Because
definitely gotten that impression.
nothing about PvP in that game was ever designed for like a debuff roll to come along and wreck everything.
I mean, it mostly just sounds like stasis in PvP just isn't fun.
Well, it just locks everybody down.
Yeah,
so you
like
can't
nobody-
do anything.
Yeah, nobody likes being crowd controlled. Like we've
Well,
known this.
The biggest thing that stasis does is it cancels supers.
Oh.
Ugh.
So it's just like, okay, I'm gonna super. Nope, no, you're not. I'm gonna stasis you, which just makes everything not fun.
Sounds not fun.
Yeah. So yeah, like going back to the game we're actually talking about. I feel like I don't know a lot. I know Sage with the new liths is the
Mhm.
healer,
Yeah.
and like that's absolutely Allagan magic. Like, there's no way you're telling me it's not Allagan magic.
Oh yeah. And then we don't know what the other class is, but apparently it's melee. And his shirts were sure telegraphing like necromancer. I
Yeah,
don't
but
know.
like he also said everyone's guesses had been wrong.
Yeah, but
So,
he's
like-
also an incredible.
He's
troll.
also a troll,
Yeah.
so
He's a massive
Who the
troll.
hell
That's
knows?
true.
Like you just can't. You can't know which parts are accurate.
I trust Yoshi P's shirts more than the lying words coming from his mouth.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be cool with a melee class that is beat people up with a scythe.
Yeah, no. I play Guild Wars. I see what this can look like. I mean, that or you could play like a Death Knight.
we already have Dark
We already
Knights.
have a Dark
I was going to
Knight,
say, if
so-
Dark Knight didn't already exist, I would think Dark Knight, since that's like the Final Fantasy IV, class.
And he's Scythes
that
in
is paladin.
FF11,
Yeah,
but we have Dark Knight.
I am predicting that Mount Ordeals will be in the game.
I
can't see how they don't make that a dungeon. Or
we've
even
got Dark Knight, but do we have Darkest Night?
Well, mostly I was thinking about the character from Fire Emblem Three Houses, who feels like the necromanciest knight possible.
Oh, yeah, true.
That guy is hilarious because there is basically one way to deal with him, and it's a tiny little girl. But she sure one-shots him every single time.
Like, so one of the shirts that he wore said something about rage, and it does make me wonder, like, is Berserker a possibility? And it's Berserker but uses scythes.
I mean, Berserkers use
did use a Scythe in FF5. It's one of the best weapons in that entire game.
Yes.
But, like, we already have warriors, and they've got some Berserker kind of capabilities.
It's true.
Yeah, I feel like there's too much overlap already there. I don't know.
Also, I feel like that game is like what is the iconic thing about Berserkers other than not controlling what they do?
That kind of is the iconic thing about Berserkers.
Yeah, and so the problem...
I guess that's not true. 10-2 had a controllable Berserker, and it was actually quite good.
Okay. I never played 10-2.
10-2 is better than 10 in almost every way.
It is.
I've also only played 10 up to Blitzball, which I realize is not very far in.
10-2 gives you the job system with magical girl transformations.
Sounds great.
Amazing.
It's great.
Yep.
It's amazing. The story does not make... So we just talked about how Final Fantasy games go off the rails in the last part. 10-2 starts after 10 went off the rails.
Yes.
So that's a thing.
Like, 10-2 demonstrates why normally you don't make sequels to Final Fantasy games, because where do you go from there? And the answer is...
Places. You go places.
You put on a pop concert and then just kind of keep escalating.
Yep. We are also going to Garlemald finally, which, we all kind of assumed we would finally make it to Garlemald this expansion, I think. It does look like we're not going to get there until after, some shit has gone down.
Yeah, it's not looking too good in the pictures they showed.
Well, and from the beginning, I kind of thought we would go to Garlemald in whatever the final expansion is of 14, and this is the end of a storyline, so I guess that counts.
So does that mean no more Warrior of Light or no more stories about Ascians? Do you think?
Probably the latter.
The latter, yeah. I mean, basically what he said is this is the end of the arc that began with A Realm Reborn of the whole Heidel and Zodiark war. Mm-hmm. So we're actually going to bring that to a climax, it sounds like.
Any chance we will cease to be incredibly haunted?
No.
I seriously doubt it.
Highly unlikely.
I mean, that's kind of our character class, so...
Yep.
I mean, why don't you like being incredibly haunted?
Yeah.
I don't know.
When the things that haunt us manifest, they're usually quite cute and helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a giant crystal, a dude with an axe, a little tiny dragon.
And a Fey folk.
Yes.
I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that by the time the game is over, we're going to be haunted by, every Ascian ever.
I mean, this is fair.
I'm laying better than even odds that Emmett Selk shows back up as our new ghost.
I mean, there's way too many thirst traps for Emmett Selk on the internet for to ever really give him up.
Yes, let's go for the genocidal dude with a very pretty smile.
That one is definitely pretty questionable.
Yep.
Yes, but doesn't he have just such a tragic backstory?
Yeah.
He's hurting inside.
Yes.
He's basically just the hero of Tactics Advance.
Ouch. That's not wrong, though.
I see.
No, March is not the hero of that story. He's just the player character.
Oh, in the sense that he is yeah, because he thinks it's all a game, and
he's trying to bring back his own reality at the expense of the one that he's in.
Right.
I mean, it fits so far.
That is
Like-
the opposite morality of the game I beat this week. Who cares about reality?
Did
For the mystery dungeon.
so? Did y'all see the flavor text about the elephant people
Oh, the Matanga?
that they hate Ara?
Oh,
I did not. I mean, I think the largest
That's
collection
already been mentioned, I
of
think.
Matanga that we've seen has been on in the steppes, so that makes sense.
Like, I don't know if the tribe that we actually do anything with will be similar, but like, yeah, no. I mean, apparently that's a thing.
Yeah, that's been mentioned in a few places previously.
I'll be interested to see how the story wraps up because, like, I'm still several patches behind.
oh, same.
Same. I'm, I think, 2 patches behind. I need to catch up.
I'm caught up, so the trailer made me mad that I'm not going to get to kill a particular person during this expansion cycle.
Yeah,
you know,
agree.
I mean, do maybe we will. Maybe it just won't stick again.
I know who you're talking about then.
You actually don't, but we'll get there.
I was gonna say,
Oh,
I know who you mean.
I was gonna say, my guess would have been the one Asian, or the prince.
For whatever reason, more people like Xenos than I do, so yes, I guess he's still around.
I don't understand that one. Like, I can understand Emmett Selk. I don't understand Xenos.
No. Like, yeah, Emmett Selk is capable of being charming. Xenos is just, like, the edgiest edgelord that ever edged.
Yes.
Basically.
I mean, that's his job. Some people seem to like that. I don't really understand it.
Yeah.
But he's so powerful.
We beat him twice,
Yeah, but he's so
possibly
powerful.
3 times.
Well, and it looks like he's using a scythe now. So maybe the katana phase is over?
Nah. His katana golf bag is too
What?
Yeah.
too iconic.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll have a fold-out scythe in there.
Could be.
He's moved on to sword canes. They're far edgier.
He's realized that Gundam is the coolest Japanese cartoon, and the coolest Gundam is Hell Scythe.
Hell Scythe?
Scythe isn't even the coolest Gundam in that set.
Which one is Hell Scythe?
Duo.
Okay, that's who I thought. That's what I was thinking of. Also, I feel like I probably disagree with who the coolest Gundam in that set is. Because I'm pretty sure I would go with Tro Bartons.
All the missiles
I thought... No, he was all the guns. Like,
and all the missiles.
oh, and all the missiles, sure. I just love the giant chain gun.
Oh, Heavy Arms?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Heavy Arms is the actual coolest Gundam.
Okay, cool. We agree. Yes. Heavy Arms is amazing, and I was so frustrated when they're like, we're going to have the main character use Heavy Arms. I'm like, cool, you're going to show Heavy Arms being awesome then. And like, and now we're going to drop all of his chain guns so he can use a beam sword.
Look,
That's
Hero may have been bad at ranged weapons.
That
And
those
piloting
shows
in
are bad
general.
at ranged weapons.
What was that?
Those shows are bad at ranged weapons.
Fair.
Missiles look incredibly cool, and then the hero mech avoids all of them.
the purpose of missiles in robot anime is to make lots and lots of trails in the sky so that the hero can dodge around and look really cool.
And hit very few things.
Yes.
That's what they're for.
Or
They're allowed to hit things if they're fired by the hero.
Yes.
They either will be, if you are shooting all of your missiles at one target, none of them will hit. If you are shooting 50 missiles at 50 targets, all of them will hit.
Yeah, that.
The ninjas thing.
Yeah,
the more
it's the law of
missiles you can
conservation
hit to
of
one
ninjas.
target, the more likely they are to miss.
So missiles are actually ninjas. Okay, it all tracks.
I don't think there'll ever be a time when I don't love the ludicrous tracer missile thing.
Because it's awesome.
It's amazing looking.
They look
It's
great.
so amazing looking.
It's so cool. Incidentally, playing that robot in Mech Warrior is very fun.
But also, like, you can tell it's like, oh, we skipped the guidance system. We just want to fire lots of missiles because they go in every possible direction.
Have
And
you
this
ever
is
played
why-
Bad Guy-O?
I mean, if you fill the sky with enough missiles,
It's the shotgun approach.
That is I have 2 missile mechs in that game that we play. One is a bunch of missiles well targeted, and one is a bunch of missiles that were just kind of shooting out there. Both are very fun.
We got these missiles real cheap, so we don't have to, be super accurate.
Yeah, we don't need to conserve these.
So, is there anything else that we're missing about Endwalker that we've not discussed? I mean, we haven't talked about Stardew Valley.
We are in fact getting Ishgard housing.
Yep.
Like they verified it.
What do you mean by Stardew Valley?
There's going to be an island we can go to, and it's Stardew Valley in A Realm Reborn.
Yep.
How? In what way is it Stardew Valley?
I mean, like you basically gonna have stuff you can do on this island and crafting missions and mini games.
Okay.
And like people to faction up with and
farming and stuff.
So there is like the interpersonal components of Stardew Valley to it.
Yeah, I mean, or Animal Crossing, if that's a more cromulent reference. It seems like that sort of thing.
Well, I mean, so I mostly understand, okay, there could be like, I'm going to build myself a house and I'm going to build a farm on it. But then like a big part of Stardew Valley is all of the various people who are part of the the village of Stardew Valley that you are getting to meet and hang out with. And it sounds like that is also kind of part of it.
That's my impression, is that it's going to do that thing specifically.
Cool.
Yeah, they didn't really have a lot about it, but it does look like it's certainly going to be a fairly big deal for side content.
We're going to get to see where the Thavnarian mist comes from.
Oh, yes. We'll get to see if Estinian likes to steal limit breaks.
Yeah.
He likes to steal everything else.
So there you go.
Yep. New trust NPC.
I mean, I feel like nobody is going to be anywhere near as murdery as Alice A.
It seems real unlikely.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a limit 1. Don't mind if I do.
I am kind of curious. I am curious if there's like, if this is the last expansion of this story, if that means they're going to try and soft relaunch the next thing. As like a soft, like, I don't know, as like a V2 of Final Fantasy XIV. I guess one of the things that I'm dancing around is I am, like, every time I think I really need to catch up on the story of Final Fantasy XIV is I really don't want to play Final Fantasy XIV. I think the story is beautiful. I love it so much. I like a lot of, like, the aesthetics of Final Fantasy XIV. I don't want to press one of 36 buttons in a specific pattern. Like, the actual engagement of doing a combat in Final Fantasy XIV kind of fills me with dread every time I approach it at this point.
Like, I feel like combat in that game started off very simple, and it was great, and then each expansion has complicated it a little bit. And, like, no one expansion has been bad, but, like, it becomes a death by 1,000 cuts.
This is why I play Monk, which has not changed in 30 levels, frankly.
Well, the game also suffers from a bit of degradation of the community spirit. I mean, when I started playing, I adored just randomly running dungeons nonstop and as a healer. And now I basically haven't been back to the game in ages, in large part because I don't want to run dungeons because it's stressful.
Yeah, like I want to hop in and do stuff on trusts, sure, but like the point at which I'm kind of just playing for the story and also only playing dungeons on trusts, it's sort of like, what am I doing?
Well, and part of it too is, okay, so Trust is a great sequence if you're just running through the story content and you basically have characters that auto level up with you. Trust is miserable if you're trying to level them outside of the main story.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a lot better than it started out, but
yeah.
The other thing that I wish it would let you do is, like, if you remember back in SWTOR, you could do, like, a dungeon with a single friend, and you would both bring your companions, and it was a viable thing. Like, I wish you could do, like, a mixed mode trust to where, like, oh, hey, there's a couple of us that want to go do this thing. Let's grab our companions and go do this thing. But it's like either solo, which admittedly gets kind of boring if you run it more than once, or full group. Well, or not full group, because full group has a specific meaning in Final Fantasy XIV. But like a 4-person group,
light party,
yeah. Like, I am certain I will come back and I will play through the expansion and I will love it, but like I'm not sure if it will hold my attention past the expansion, because that's kind of been the story with me in Final Fantasy XIV for a while. And on some level, that's fine too, because like the story's really good. It's fun to go through.
Yeah, I really want them to do something. Try something different with the combat. It feels very dated to me at this point.
Yeah, I think that for better or worse, that is not the game where that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, it was a very traditional, like very, very traditional, very like classic structures MMO when it launched.
Relaunched anyway.
Relaunched, yeah.
So I feel, though, like with Dancer, that job at least doesn't have like a super specific rotation. It's like you do things, but buttons will light up, and then what you press is pretty much up to you. I mean, sure, there's going to be probably a decently optimal way to do it, but at least that job, I feel like, is a lot more flexible. You just kind of play it how you would like to. It's not like, Dragoon, where you have like spinning plates that you have to get going before you can finally do your big attack or something. So hopefully the melee job will kind of follow that, because I do enjoy playing Dancer, and I find it a lot more fun to just like play it for like whatever, like for Alliance Roulette and stuff like that, and just play something that's fun to play.
Yeah, Dancer is what I have been playing when my anxiety about healing got the better of me, and Dancer is really fun.
Yep. So I'm hoping maybe they can, yeah.
When my anxiety about tanking got to me, I started playing a samurai full time, and it was also fun. But like, it was mostly I was playing a game that was different than the rest of what everyone was doing, because it was like build to the big attack and then unleash said big attack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. You can kind of wind around your path for that one a little bit and gather up your stickers and do your big attack.
Stickers.
Everybody likes stickers, right?
Yeah.
I do feel like some jobs are designed better than others.
Yeah.
Like, Dancer is fun. I'm not the biggest fan of Bard at the moment.
I'll admit they've never been clear what they want to do with Bard.
Summoner is, yeah.
Bard is fine so long as you're playing it wrong.
I mean, that's true.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's kind of the summoner thing too. Is it's like, this class is, if you really just absolutely love hyper optimizing hotbar combat, it's great.
Summoner.
But if you don't want to do that,
Summoner is too many buttons.
It is.
it's what? It's just
Summoner is entirely too many buttons.
Yeah, and if you don't want to do that, it's kind of misery.
I was pretty disappointed with some of this expansion. Like, it started out okay, and then the more I played, I'm like, I'm gonna go back to Red Mage.
Like, I just hate. I hate the classes that are monitor the state of your buff. Make sure you've got your buff. If you ever lose your buff, you're screwed, because you won't do any damage now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah.
And that's kind of Dragoon, which was for the longest time my favorite DPS, and then it wasn't with Heavensward.
I was going to say, I feel like Dragoon... Heavensward was the first expansion. Like, before the first expansion, Dragoon was just like, press these buttons in order. Yeah, you have 2 combos. Keep your debuff up and then do the other combo twice. And now it's still just keep keep up your debuff and rotate through your non-debuff combo and your debuff combo. But also there's more buttons to make the combos last long enough so that the debuff runs out after one cycle instead of two. But I'm just like, I'm pretty sure I'm pressing somewhere in the order of like 30 buttons in a specific order and then repeating those buttons. And granted, I'm spending some time, like, I'm avoiding circles. I'm doing a lot of things avoiding circles. But it feels like if I could just be pressing the do damage while I'm also avoiding circles, that would be interesting. Or if
you say that, but Rift sucked.
That's fair.
Like, combat in Rift was the most boring thing I've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but again, I wish, again, it's going to get unfair comparison because I'm playing a lot of Guild Wars, but Guild Wars, like, I press this button to do this thing. Like, I press this button so that I can close gaps. I press this button when I need to break a bar.
You haven't looked at optimal combat in Guild Wars, have you?
I have looked at optimal combat a lot in Guild Wars, and I'm doing it, and it is pretty frustrating, I will admit.
Like, it looks pretty similar. Press these buttons. You only have 15 total buttons, but you need to press all of them in a particular order.
Yes, I know.
Well, and I think that it's more indicative of, in a lot of ways, MMO design hasn't, like, MMO combat design has not meaningfully evolved since EverQuest. Like, you still have a row of buttons, and you're pressing said buttons in a particular set order, and your effectiveness is based on your ability to press those buttons in a particular set order. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that anybody's quite figured out, like, how should that work? Like,
I think so. The one thing that I will say that Guild Wars does and WildStar did, but I don't know if I would say that it was great because it was, again, even more taxing. But like the idea of a break bar where it's like you need to, as a group, press the buttons that interrupt something, or you need to react to this thing that is happening in this timing. And also, frankly, adding a common dodge roll is a really valuable thing. And granted, Final Fantasy does have that dodge roll. It is very useful. But
wait, what?
Doesn't it? Am I misremembering?
You are.
You are.
Oh my goodness. It's been too long since I've played Final Fantasy XIV. I guess I just ran out of the way of things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is dodging.
Yeah.
I mean, unlike Guild Wars, you don't move slower in combat.
Yeah.
And sprint is a thing.
Yeah, but I never pressed that in combat. I'd mostly for vestigial reasons, because it used to drain all your TP.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fair.
It doesn't do that anymore.
I know, but I haven't unlearned that. Anyways.
Yeah, for years this was the now I can't do anything for like 15 seconds button. It was bad.
I do think
it was fine if you were a caster, because
bad.
I do think there are some.
Why are you so slow?
I do wonder, like, what would be a fun model to, like, what other games are out there that provide a fun model to go off of?
So the obvious answer there is ESO.
Yeah.
And New World as its basically evolution.
Yeah.
Which you have a more action system where you have some buttons, but they are less important than the other things you're doing.
And I think you could probably go the extreme other way and make like a really, really high fidelity version of like Wizard 101, where it is fully turn-based. Because I think Bravely Default would be less mind-numbing and frustrating if you only had to manage one character and you were playing it in a group and were like working out group tactics. Like, obviously not the exact same game, but I'm thinking about like, because my thing is that you can go for the like more action focused combat And I think that that's definitely one direction you can go. But a lot of people, that's not like part of the reason a lot of people play MMOs is that they don't want to be playing twitchy action combat. And I wonder, like, how do you capture that and still keep it interesting without just having the like flood of buttons and the punching in your phone number experience?
I mean, I'm going to be brutally honest. I play MMOs when I want to watch Netflix. Like, I mean, MMOs are a game that I can play while doing something else and not really damage either experience.
See, yeah, I don't think I play MMOs that way. Like, I'm definitely trying to engage with the game.
I mean, and the reason why I say that is because there are better game experiences that are not MMOs that do a better job of being engaging.
Yeah, well, I mean, and maybe the answer is that MMOs forged ahead and broke through the online wall, but now everything does that. So it's like, all right, well, MMOs aren't like, what are they offering that other games can't at this point and be more engaging? And I don't know, like, I still feel like there's something there.
I mean, for me, it was like a communal game experience is what I kind of want my MMO to do.
But I don't think you're ever going to get that again in the same fashion that those games that used to be.
So I get that at least a little bit with Guild Wars, because Guild Wars has a lot of things that asks me to work with a large group of people. Like, Guild Wars has retained the ability to ask me to do things massively.
That is a good point. Like, there's plenty of games where I just don't want to do things with random players, and like that will prevent me from doing stuff at all. And I've never really had that problem with Guild Wars because, and I think to a great extent, because it's so easy to drop in and out of those things, and it's almost kind of expected that, you know, maybe you'll fall down and have to get picked up repeatedly. And
in a lot of ways, the game isn't measuring you.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that was the thing that ultimately soured my enjoyment of raiding in WoW. It's a lot of, I think what Grace was talking about earlier about the shift in the community mindset, where it's just like, you know, the thing that stopped me from hopping back into FF14 is the last time I went, I hopped in to heal something with a tank that was pulling a dungeon I'd never been into wall to wall, and it was a miserable experience. Whereas I can hop into an event that I know nothing about in Guild Wars and just kind of follow what people are, you know, where's the crowd going? What does it look like they're fighting? All right, I'll fight those things.
There are designated people there who are there to tell you how to do things.
I mean, admittedly, like, this is the part that I like the most when I'm playing Destiny, is that a lot of the content is very, like, drop in, drop out.
Yeah.
And the fail state is so low that it doesn't necessarily matter if you're changing out people regularly.
Yeah, well, and Destiny, it's like, this is the thing I am about to say, I need a caveat, is incredibly unfair to Bungie and should not escape my mouth as a former game dev. But I think my problem with Destiny is ultimately that it isn't big enough.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I don't feel like I don't have this sense of massive space. I don't have this sense of a plethora of options. I have this sense of dropping into these specific kind of small feeling spaces and having a really limited number of options to pick from.
It doesn't help that they're reducing the number of options available.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair, like, that's one of the problems with Destiny as well, because the things that are really amazing when they work often require, like, the entire number of people that are on a planet at any given time working towards the same objective.
That's very interesting you say that, because I did not experience that, and that's actually the thing that I felt was missing from Destiny.
Well, so the thing is like, there's specific encounters that are really cool if you can get them working, like escalation protocol. was a thing on Mars that you had to go through 7 waves of an event, or really it wasn't even worth participating in if you didn't make it all the way through. And they did the same thing on the moon with Sara's Harbor, where there's this big set piece event going on, and everyone should be working towards the same objective, and you get, interesting rewards at the end.
Is there a way to try and identify, like, and again, I don't know how server technology or anything with that in Destiny works. Is there a way to, like, identify, hey, we're trying to do this meta event. Come join our server and we'll do it.
So the only way that here's the problem, and this is where it falls apart, is inside of Destiny, there is no real way to queue for these things and say, I want to do this meta event. Come join my team. Let's all work together. So what has happened is the community has built third-party apps that allow you to look for groups for these specific things.
Okay. That's not the worst answer.
And for the longest time, it was like offensively stacked against this, because you could only queue with 2 other players to go to a planet, but then they eventually made it to where you could queue with a full 6-player fire team, like in a raid. And that helped out things like Escalation Protocol and the big open world events that take place. And like Phelan and I spent time trying to do these things, and Warren and I attempted to do things. And like, what ended up happening is, if you're not wanting to go through the third-party app, you just end up going to the planet and checking to see if it's happening. And if not, going back out to orbit, coming back down to the planet until you finally get a group that like seems to be doing the group content aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of miserable. Like, it was not enjoyable to go through that song and dance.
Cool. But like, so that's in Guild Wars, and boy, we're real off topic, but in Guild Wars, like, you have a looking for group, and you go to, there's a looking for group for every single zone, and there is a timer on which these zone metas fire. And if you go to the looking for group about 15 minutes before the zone meta starts, you can usually see people forming groups to do the zone metas in trying to stack at least one of the instances with a full complement of people to do it.
Man, that's that is a thing that the tracking all of the events felt like such an artificial, weird, like, pull me out of the experience thing at first, and now it's like, oh, this is how I do the things that I want to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When I was playing this pretty regularly, I had a third-party like overlay that just had
Taco still exists and can do it.
Yeah, so like, you just had this overlay, and like, here's all these events going on, and it would tell you what zone to be in and at what time, and like where the event was going to start. And
you don't even need the third party thing, though, because I mean, you can just join a squad, and it's very easy to join a squad, but it's not just, it doesn't feel quite as, it feels different to me than hitting the looking for group button, because you actually have to go and be like, oh, this squad is recruiting for this event, I will actively join this squad, and then I am in a squad of people that at least somebody has selected me to be part of. In this case, it's me rather than like a squad leader. But I think this is a really clever way of like still allowing for a squad leader or a party leader to offload the process of finding people for an event, while still not making it feel quite as algorithmic as a looking for group button.
Yeah, the likelihood that I would do that is pretty nil, though. I'm going to be honest.
Why is that?
Do what?
Like, the actually joining a group for a thing, like, I would probably just be doing, I would be one of those other people that are hanging around while the event is going on.
I mean, in practice, the entire point of joining the squad is so that you end up on the map where they're doing the meta.
Yeah.
Like actually being a member of the squad doesn't really matter. Like, in fact, even they'll create taxi squads where the entire purpose of the squad is to get you to the right map, and then you're supposed to lead the squad, so they have room to bring in more people.
Oh, or they will ask you to rebalance, because like a lot of these metas, there are going to need to be 3 squads, 1 for each lane, or in the case of Tangled Depths, 4 squads 1 for each lane. And like you might need to rebalance into another squad because they're lagging behind a little bit. But like the squads are great because they are usually headed up by people with the mentor tag, and
they have to be headed up by people with the commander tag.
Oh, okay. I did not realize that.
Yeah,
and
that's one of the big benefits of the commander tag, is to be able to create squads.
Yeah, those people have self-selected into saying, I am capable of leading people through these metas. And that's how you can learn to do the stuff. And how you get to the point where, frankly, ludicrously complicated things are done by what is effectively a pug raid.
Well, and then also for that matter, if you're on a map and you see a commander tag on the map, you can just wander over to where the commander tag is and see what's going on.
Yeah, maybe
participate.
That is more my speed most of the time, just because I don't know, like the actual joining a group seems awful people-y at times.
I don't necessarily even talk in group chat. Mostly
nobody talks in group chat.
Well, except the
commander sometimes, which is why it's nice to be in the squad.
Yeah.
Because they're going to...
It's really... Part of what I think is really interesting about it is that what makes it work, I think, is that it feels less people-y because I'm so used to the experience of like queuing for a group and then having to directly deal with the quirks and judgment and behavior of everybody else in that group.
Yeah, I will say...
And I mostly don't.
I am also continuously surprised by how non-gatekeepery commander tags are. Like, I am not close to progression in this game. And for the longest time, like, I was lacking some pretty fundamental things to be able to do things. And it's just like, okay, if you have the thing, come with us. If you don't have the thing, here's the other thing you should do.
I mean, to a great extent, being undergunned, like, individually, you're not harming the group. Like, you're still there. You're still, contributing. You're not contributing as much as maybe you could have, but you're still helping. But I don't think I've never seen anybody be, I think the toxicity related to that is located entirely in the raid community.
Okay.
And maybe the high-end fractal community. I'm not sure. But yeah, I think that's it. I think those people are all over there doing that stuff.
Well, I mean, and it segments pretty well and largely doesn't bleed over into other things. I mean, I'm trying to think of like other games in which it's like, oh, well, we failed, but we'll get it next time. And which is like, that's such a hard attitude to find in games now.
Yeah, because the metas come around. So like I think the longest wait you ever have for a zone meta is like 3 hours, I think, between the hard Tyria bosses.
The hard Tyria bosses are 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah. Like that's long, but that's the longest you'll have to wait for that meta to swing back around.
Almost everything else is a 2-hour rotation or shorter.
Yep.
I will correct myself. I do believe I have seen some toxicity when we failed an Auric Basin because one side killed the Octavine too quickly.
I mean, people get salty about that.
Yeah.
Even there, I've mostly seen people just like jokingly act incredibly just like over the top about, oh no, how will we possibly do it, and then succeeding. But yeah, failure due to. But I don't know if you're doing the Auric Basin meta at this point and you fail because somebody killed theirs too quickly, you probably didn't have enough people on the map.
I mean, and similarly, you're not going to cause the event to fail because you're some person who wandered in, has no idea what's going on, and just trying to follow along.
Yeah,
which I think is really, really important, because like I absolutely cause the group to fail when I roll into a new dungeon and I don't know what's going on, and I am not on the same page as people who have been running it for months. And it's a feeling that makes me not want to do it more. It's that whole like, how do you make running into another player who you don't know a mostly positive experience versus a neutral or negative one?
And I feel like you only run into other players in meaningful ways in Final Fantasy XIV in dungeons, because doesn't feel like there's a lot of meaningful world stuff going on. Granted, I have not played since vanilla Shadowbringers. I don't know if they've made the world experience of Shadowbringers more interesting.
Well, the only time that you really encounter fun world things going on is when there's some kind of event happening. And then, like, there's a bunch of casual interaction when people are chasing the creepy pets and the mountain, whatever, yokai watch thing.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, fates. And, like, fates are not... Why do I feel like fate... Why do fates feel so different from events?
Yeah, like, they're basically the same thing.
Basically the same thing.
But yeah. I don't know, they feel more disposable in Final Fantasy? I don't know.
You don't always have a whole lot of reason to run them.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that people chase are on weird timers or trickier to find.
Or are just straight over by the time you actually get over there.
Yeah, like the really interesting ones tend to be on really long timers, and then even when the timer's up, they have to be triggered by something. So you have no way of predicting precisely when this fate will be available to do.
Not 3 to 4 hour timers, 24 to 36 hour timers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, a lot of people are grinding fates right now, especially like Heavensward ones for like the relic weapon and stuff. And it's very much the mob goes here, the mob goes there. Blue mages destroy everything because they can do that now. And maybe you'll get credit for it. And so, like, actually fates right now and in some spots are kind of a bit frustrating for some people unless you can be in with the mob and participate enough to get your credit. And then it's just like, eye bleeding, just grinding for a while to get what you want and then go on.
Yeah. There's that too. Final Fantasy doesn't automatically down level people. You have to like deliberately down level yourself to participate in the fate, which adds like a little of a bit of additional friction to even bothering to get involved.
Yeah.
And means you have very little reason to go to low level fates unless you're like chasing, I don't know, old Atma weapons stuff.
Yeah. For like, the new relics right now, you can actually get drops from like Heavensward Fates. So those are actually fairly popular right now, but it's still just like, you just check out and do whatever, click your button and hope you click it and actually get level synced and get your credit.
Well, to be honest though, that's kind of the problem with Final Fantasy in general, is there's no reason to be out in the world.
Yeah,
period.
that is very true. Like, this is about the only time recently where it's like I feel like I'm seeing lots of people out doing stuff in the world.
So, like, you see a lot of people idling in whatever the new hotness hub is, and then you see, and they're only doing that while they're queuing for dungeons or waiting on raids to happen. But, like, as far as other reasons to be in the world, the game doesn't really give you any.
Yeah.
That is also an interesting thing I heard, is like there's not a ton of reason to do old content, which is one of the things that I know Guild Wars does very well, because you're
selectively does well.
Yeah.
So I will say that every old zone still has mats that I care about.
Mm-hmm.
I never stop caring about the stuff that I can get in old zones. And in fact, I've been tempted to go back to old zones now more than ever because, yes, I am out of all of the low-level crafting mats and I need them to continue on with this nonsense I'm doing.
I mean, that's true with Final Fantasy XIV as well. I mean, they do drop mats that are meaningful, but like that was never much of a reason to get me to go to a zone in the first place. Like the drops in Final Fantasy XIV always felt bad. Like it didn't feel like anything was ever going to drop that was worth my time.
Also, you can get your retainers to pick up a lot of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You just run the retainers, and that was a super meandering conversation.
Yep.
Surprise.
We got a topic in.
Yeah. I mean, that was off the rails. That was fairly topical, I would say.
Yeah. So one of the things that I threw on the list, and I think will be a pretty quick topic, is it seems like Stadia is mostly dead as a concept.
Womp womp.
Google shuttered one of its products?
They haven't shuttered the product yet.
Shuttered the product yet, but they've shuttered the game studio, that was going to make content for Stadia.
Yes.
So the product itself exists. There just won't be any first-party games for it.
Well, and
they've
also announced that they're going to start leaning into selling Stadia as a platform for other publishers to grant access to their games. And like, there's some weird stuff already with Stadia in that if you pay for like the Ubisoft Pass, you can bind your Stadia account and your Uplay account or Uconnect or whatever they're calling it now. And then all of a sudden, all those games that you would have access to through Uconnect, you've got access to through Stadia instead. So, like, I think that's what they're basically going to be, a gray label cloud service for other platforms.
I mean, they're off to a strong start with Terraria announcing that they're going to stop product support for Stadia.
That situation is weird.
Okay, so what happened there? I haven't heard this one.
The dev studio got locked out.
Oh, is this the one where like Google locked his account and he got mad about it?
Not his account, the studio's account.
Oh.
Yeah.
And all they could get was basically automated responses.
Well, of course.
And then responded to this by canceling Terraria for Stadia.
I mean, it seems like Google-style support.
Yup. Sure does, doesn't it?
I mean, like, I have heard so many horror stories of people who have had something go south on YouTube and completely unable to get anybody to talk to them. I mean, thankfully, I've not run into any major issues with YouTube, but, like, that's definitely a thing I've heard. Google's a real confusing company. Also, apparently, GeForce... What's GeForce's...
GeForce Now.
GeForce Now is going to support browser-based play kind of like Stadia.
Well,
it's about to roll out. I mean, other than publishers removing their games, like, that one has been a pretty solid option from what I can tell.
I still don't understand who this is for.
Someone who wants to play PC games but doesn't have a PC or a console. Really.
Somebody who wants to play PC or console games but
doesn't have a sufficient
doesn't have the hardware, but is living in a place where they can have really just great internet. So somewhere relatively affluent.
Yeah.
Like, that's just where I get confused. It's like, who?
It's a situation of, I don't think it's for people who can't afford a console or can't afford a PC. It's just for folks that don't have one for some reason or another, but also want to play the new, whatever the new hotness game is, but maybe want to play it from their Mac or maybe want to play it from a Chromebook. Because honestly, like, I've done the Chromebook thing with these various streaming services, and that's a surprisingly playable experience. I mean, I use Parsec every single day, and that's a different solution, but it's entirely because I don't want to have to maintain two systems. Like, laptops for gaming purposes are a trap. Like, they really are. Laptops for gaming purposes are one of the worst wastes of money you can make. But I want to be able to play from a laptop downstairs. And Parsec is how I do that. But I've also tried all of the various cloud offerings, and like Stadia is the only one that doesn't really work for me. I was able, what's Luna? Is that the Amazon offering? It was not great, but it was better than Stadia. GeForce was a good option. xCloud has been a good option. But like, I don't think the problem that I think with Stadia is they marketed it towards gamers, and I don't think that's who their demographic should have been. Like, it's people that would never consider themselves gamers, but maybe want to play like a big title each year.
That's a aggressive thing to try and do a like premium membership
make a
service.
Platform for. Yeah,
I'm not saying that there's actually a market for this thing,
but there seems to be. Like, xCloud seems to have.
Yeah, but the thing with xCloud is it's a bonus. Like, xCloud exists as a thing that you get in addition to your Xbox Game Pass thing. Like, it's a bonus, so why not play it from your phone because you have access to it? I'm still not entirely certain that xCloud has a market just for itself. And that's the thing that has probably the best value proposition. You get like a library in a box that you can just log into. Anyway, it does not look like things are going well for Stadia.
Fryshock.jpg.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like true facts.
So, Kodra, how long is the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon topic?
Not terribly long. It's a fun story.
Let's dig into that one real quick.
So we got to the end of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. In fact, I need to thank Ash for coming and rescuing us, because we are a rescue team, but we got a little bit in over our head in the Sky Tower. And so he had to rescue us on floor 12, I believe. But then we got it the second time around. And the end of the story of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, like, the story is basically you are a human who is become a Pokemon, and that's kind of a mystery for most of the game. Like, what's going on with that? You don't remember anything about yourself other than that you were a human, now you're a Pokemon. And you and another Pokemon form a rescue team, which basically is you go in and you rescue other Pokemon from calamities. And at the end of the game, it like, hey, you've solved the problem. Now it's time for you to go back home to the human world. And there's like a rather wrenching like farewell scene where you have to tell all of the friends you've made throughout this game, like, goodbye. Like, I'm leaving now. And yes, this was my son's very first 12 SADs out of 10 game. And he was like trying to hold it together and just sort of sniffling through the end scene. And then when the credits came, he kind of lost it and started bawling. And don't worry, the game does have a happy ending in the post credits, but it was definitely touch and go there for a second. But yes.
Most of the other games make you do some work for that part afterward.
Oh, do they?
They don't just give it to you automatically.
Oh, good to know. So I will make sure I always put in that work.
But yeah, they like to do that at the end of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games.
Really?
Yeah. They all give you a real sad pre-credits ending.
You saved the world, but now you no longer belong in it.
I've created a world that has no room for people like me.
Mild spoilers, but Super actually reverses this and you lose your partner instead.
Oh, that would be much worse.
So yeah, the post-credits there is get your partner back.
Well, and my favorite part of this entire, like, it is truly heart-wrenching and sad, and watching my son process it was adorable and heartbreaking. But he named all of the Pokemon involved in this game, and so it was the heart-wrenching story of Bookworm and Cookie. which added just another layer to everything. But anyways, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, very, very fun ending. And, yeah, that last fight was annoying. Sure reminded me of a certain boss from a D&D campaign we played.
No comment.
I've never played a Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game.
Yeah, well, it was a boss that was constantly using air to try and knock us off of a platform.
Oh.
The boss can't actually knock you off of that platform.
Well, he's constantly sending gusts of wind at you to knock you around.
Yes. The game also knows that he's kind of difficult because if you lose, the HP amount is saved.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
That's amusing. Too bad you're now on floor 33 of the worst dungeon.
You need to be rescued in floor 33 of Scry Tower. But yeah. Also, it's not the worst dungeon.
Well, no, it's definitely not the worst dungeon, but it's the worst dungeon at that point.
Yes.
Anyways, I'm in Dark Knight Relic, if you could help me out.
I can't help you out.
Dark Knight Relic sucks. Yeah, they definitely don't let you know how bad certain places are before you go in them.
Accurate. Bring in a skateboard. Always.
Oh, that's smart. I should do that. I should see if I've been rescued yet. I posted that one to the internet.
You probably have. People run Dark Knight Relic for stat boosting items.
Are we still talking about Pokemon Mystery Dungeon?
I mean, we were, but we can probably be done now.
No, I'm like, because that didn't sound like Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. Dark Knight Relic?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the name of the dungeon.
Okay. I thought we had, like, switched over to, like, I don't know, Bravely Default or something else.
Dark Knight Relic. It's the first post-credits dungeon. It's
You shouldn't
terrible.
do it. You shouldn't do it immediately. The game doesn't tell you this.
No, it doesn't. It's terrible.
Oh, wow. That sounds miserable.
Bring in a skateboard. Always bring in a skateboard.
Yeah, once I realized that I was fighting things like 10 levels above me, I was like, ooh, I'm in danger. And then I hit a monster room.
You're saying escape warp. I was hearing skateboard.
That's what I thought too. Bring in a skateboard.
Like 100% didn't even register because it's like, all right, a skateboard's in a Pokemon game. This makes perfect sense to me.
No, it is an orb, which orbs are items in that game that you use to get out of a dungeon or escape.
Yeah,
Bring in a skateboard.
I mean,
Yeah.
Pikachu absolutely skateboards.
Sure.
I mostly use orbs that are Wigglytuff orbs. That's my primary use of those items. Because those allow me to find homes for the lost Pokemon I am sheltering along.
Orbs are great. Also petrify orbs. Great for monster houses.
Oh, that would make sense.
Items in that game are good.
Yeah.
Use the offensive items too.
Yeah. Well, I have to use all of the regenerative items like elixirs and ethers and oran berries and reviver seeds. But yeah, no, I didn't think about keeping some faux seal orbs.
I think full seal orbs affect the floor and petrify orbs affect the room or something, but the room is enough for a monster house.
Oh, okay. Yeah, also Dark Knight Relic doesn't show you the map, which means that
None of the post-game dungeons will.
That's terrible. That's so bad. Oh no. Because that's the only way I could, avoid the monster houses.
No, that takes an item. In the original game, you didn't get that for the story dungeons either.
Really?
Yeah. No, you can't see where items and enemies are by default in any of the original games.
It's just in this one that you get
Just
that?
in this one, and it only applies for the story dungeons.
Ah.
Need a potion of object detection.
Yeah,
You
that
need
makes
extra
sense.
specs. X-ray specs will give you that power.
Does that also apply to post-game dungeons?
Yes.
Then yes, I clearly need to get X-ray specs. Because even that high level dungeon would not have been a problem if it weren't for the monster house. Because I have leveled up a rather beefy Pikachu and Charmander. Charmeleon now.
Yeah, now you can evolve.
Now I can evolve things. The balance of the world has returned, and Pokemon are able to improve themselves. But I felt quite sad that I had to give up the rescue scarf to evolve.
Yes.
Disappointing.
Does that mean you're no longer on a rescue team?
No, I'm still on a rescue team. I just don't have the adorable rescue scarf, which is how you can identify if you are looking at something from Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. It's a cute Pokemon with a various colored scarf around their neck. Anyways, the games are good little net hacky things.
Well, there anything else we want to talk about? We're probably at time-ish.
I think we're good.
I think we're good.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.